F3 Nation. This week on the podcast, Italian Job and I welcome staff writer for Grow Ruck, Ralph. Ralph is about to drop a multi-part series on the Grow Ruck training exercise. We thought it would be a great time to sit down, review a few of the stories that he's seen over the past 7 Grow Rucks, and what to look ahead to in the coming months, years, and beyond. Tired of hearing about Grow Ruck? It's probably because you haven't participated in one yet. Hop over to growruck.com and sign up now. What are you waiting for? Until then, this is Stuff Worth Trying. Looking good, Italian Job.
I'm feeling good, Tommy boy. How are you, brother?
Man, I am exhausted, but for all the right reasons. It's been a good week. Picked up a couple cues this week. Saw some faces I hadn't seen in a while. Felt the power and the importance of this thing called F3. We've had some loss here in the region, as many have throughout the years. And that moment when you sit in a circle with your friends after playing reindeer games for 45 minutes to an hour and realize just truly how much we are the exception to what a lot of other men are out there experiencing on their own really resonated this week and the past couple weeks, honestly, in a powerful and important and lovely way. So, yeah, we are the lucky ones. How are you, my friend?
I mean, same. It's overwhelmed. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of mammon stuff. But we're going into the holiday season, and we have that opportunity to spend time with our loved ones. But this will be the first year that somebody that's listening is not with someone that they're used to having at the table. And so we want to make sure we lift up our thoughts and prayers for that guy, for the situation, wherever they are, whatever they're going through. Challenging times. I mean, holidays are great until, someone's missing at the table and it hits hard.
That's right.
So, lifting up those folks. But you're exactly right. I mean, we are the lucky ones. We have the outlet. We have the cure for what ails the lonely man in this world. I mean, we have found it. And like I like to tell people, we're like beggars showing other beggars where to find bread. And that's what this is all about, man. So, just keeping that in mind as we're going into the holiday season.
Well, I know that you recruited our guest today, and it was, as always, perfect timing, I think, of how this whole show works is that we find the right people at the right time. Mm-hmm. And as I was reflecting throughout the week of just being a part of other people's stories, other men's stories, and how we can be a great supportive character in their lives, then here you come with a writer. So why don't you set us up and we'll dive into it together.
Well, I would like to say that I pulled a lot of this off of LinkedIn. So if any of it's wrong, then this guy needs to update his profile. So here we go. Our guest today is an innovative, dynamic, and talented writer with over 30 years of experience. His strong interview, reporting, and writing skills have led to more than 40 cover stories in national magazines. Recognitions include Writer of the Year, Story of the Year 7 times from 4 different organizations, dozens of national and regional writing awards, 8 citations in Best American Sports Writing, Year's Best Sports Writing, and 1 in Best American Essay Writing. He's a freelance journalist covering travel, sports, and adventure. He's a Grow Ruck, or the Grow Ruck, staff writer, friend of the show, and pride of F3 St. Charles. Please welcome Matt Crossman, whom we lovingly refer to as Ralph. Welcome, Ralph. Glad to have you on the program, my friend.
Man, if I knew you were going to read off of my LinkedIn profile, I would have taken some of those words out and made it a little more modest, but I appreciate that intro, and I would have updated it. Some of those numbers aren't right anymore, but
Tommy Boy, what that means is he actually has more awards. That's what it is. It's actually gotten a little bit more prestigious. We have a pro on the show is what I'm hearing. I mean, he's got for those who are watching, he's got the legitimate microphone and he's got the headset like our true podcaster would be. Tommy Boy and I are using headphones and whatever we have readily available. We've got a true pro with us, a consummate professional.
Yeah, now you're getting carried away. You know me better than that.
Speaking of knowing you better, I know you at some of the most ridiculous hours of the morning. You know, the No one knows what time it is. Everyone is delirious, and it's probably 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep deprived, and you're either in your pain cave, you're about to go into your pain cave, or you just came out of it. And for some reason, I look over at you, and you're like the Energizer Bunny, like let's go, let's go. And I'm assuming it's because you have a passion for what you do. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. I'm a little. I've heard that twice now this week. That you didn't
Yeah.
seem tired. Actually, you seemed like you were on it. I'm like, well, I don't know. I think that's because when we're seeing each other at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm still concentrating pretty hard on the story that I'm trying to gather. And at the most recent GTE, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We're on the beach. It's just freezing and raining really hard, and we started trading Ralph Wiggum quotes. Why did we start trading Ralph Wiggum quotes? I have absolutely no idea.
Why not?
So we got back, and like Tuesday morning, I sent out an email to a bunch of the men who I thought I might have been trading the Ralph Wiggum quotes with, because I had forgotten who it was, because I was giggling like an idiot. And it was slaughter. Like, you're trading Ralph Wiggum quotes at 3 o'clock in the morning on the beach next to the Atlantic Ocean with the Nantan of the entire nation, which I just thought was hilarious. So
My cat's breath smells like cat food.
that's the best one. I mean,
that's a solid one.
That's A1. Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. For those who don't know, you were not named after Ralph Wiggum. So how did the name Ralph come about? Now, I know this answer, but some of the guys listening for the first time may not. So how long have you been doing F3, and how'd you get the nickname?
And so I've been doing it 5 years. And I started it as some people know, was to write a piece in Men's Health. And my initial plan was I'll go to one workout and I'll write the story and I'll go on with my life. And I had so much fun at the first workout. I thought, well, I better go to 2 just to make sure I got the story. You know what? After 2, 3 would really give me a more robust story. And here I am 5 years later. So at my first beatdown, the frequent question I now know is, what's your life's most embarrassing story? And I was dumb enough to answer it. And so I told them a true story, that when I was on the high school tennis team, while the ball was in play, I absolutely puked my guts out. Just heaping mounds of vomit came pouring out of me. And no joke, that court was stained for years and years and years. And so that's why they call me Ralph. So
heaping mounds of vomit would be a great FNG name.
I just threw up so much. It was like 3 complete total stomach unloads. So
copious bile.
Copious. And so the other funny thing is, so I kind of stood up and said, okay, guys, I'm done. Not meaning I'm done throwing, not meaning I'm done. I'm going home. I think I was a sophomore when that happened. And a couple of years later, we played the same team. And one of the guys on that team said, aren't you the guy that threw up on the court? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, now, granted, it's been 3 years. He said, are you feeling better? So I thought that was pretty funny.
That's a legacy is what that is. You've left a legacy and a mark that lasted apparently a few years physically on the court, not just in the minds of the spectators.
Yeah. So pretty proud of that. So
that's good
Ralph,
stuff.
You've been bouncing around quite a bit. I keep seeing you pop up here, there, and everywhere. It's like you're almost like a step away from being renamed Waldo. Tell us a little bit about where you've been, what you've seen, what have you been up to?
Yeah. So this year I've been Linus, the head of the director of the GTE program, has commissioned me to write several pieces about GTE. So I went to the one that was here in our backyard in St. Charles, and then I went to the one in the UK, and then I just recently went to the one in Wilmington. So telling each one a little bit differently. The one in St. Charles was about cadre. The one in the UK was a little bit about the fact this sort of historic event in the history of GTE and F3 to have this signature event in the UK. And this most recent one in Wilmington was a Veterans Day piece, because that it was on Veterans Day, and F3 is pretty closely aligned with, I don't know about veteran causes is the right way, but there's a lot of influence of the military life in our life, in the veteran life in our life. So it was writing about that. So just and I would say I've been, as iJob was kind enough to point out, I've been doing this for 30 years. That trip to the UK is in the top 2 or 3 trips I've ever had, and the top 2 or 3 assignments I've ever had. It was just and setting aside just the fact that it was fun, right? It was an enjoyable life experience. I'd never been to England to go there and meet the men, but the things that we witnessed and the things that we saw when we got home, pretty much everybody who was part of it, who is a GTE veteran, said that that was their favorite GTE, which frankly surprised me because the use of that kind of superlative language, I was surprised that they would say that. Like, oh, yeah, they're all great. They're all hard, whatever. But no, that was my favorite. iJob's nodding. He said it. Linus said it. Pretty much everyone said it.
Yeah, so that event, I think what made that one so special is we literally went in with no expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what to expect, not sure what it was going to be like, not sure what the rucking culture was, not sure if the culture of F3 was pervasive, outside of the states. And and Ralph, what did you experience? I mean, what did you see that made this one special? Because I have all kinds of stories, but some of the guys have already heard my stories. But what kind of stories or things that kind of popped up while we were in the UK that just kind of stuck with you?
Yeah. Okay. So let's first. So I wrote all about that. It's going to be a 3-part series. The first one is going to drop Tuesday. Boy, it's hard to even. So let's talk a couple of GTE stories first. Probably my strongest memory is at the fire department. Pretty much every GTE now that has become a thing, right? With the fire, you either go to the fire department or the fire department shows up and they soak the men. But this one was unique for a couple reasons. One, because we physically were there in their driveway, and the men were bear crawling around, and there was 2 guys standing outside with hoses, shooting the men like it was a video game. They weren't just shooting the water up into the air and letting it soak them. They were targeting them, and I mean this was damn near knocking men over. And frankly, in a couple cases, it probably did knock them over. So I liken it to like a video game where like the longer you hit a guy, the more points you got. And then I was smart enough not to be in that water. I was observing, not participating, so I could walk around and watch. I walked around to the front of one of the fire trucks. There's a guy sitting in the front of the fire truck, and he's using like a joystick because there's a robot hose on top of the fire truck, and he's doing the same thing, just destroying guys. And then he looks down and sees me looking at him, and he got, I like to think the look on his face was, imagine you're the Q and you're at the end of a really hard workout and you're trying to decide, should I do this really hard thing that I know will destroy all the men? And you think, yes, I will do that. You know that look that you get on your face, like I'm about to screw with these guys? That was the look on his face. So it was kind of like the scene in The Grinch where he gets this really big smile that comes on his face and the light bulb pops over his head. Yeah. That was it, because I saw the exact same moment, and he gave us a thumbs up and a smile and a nod. It was just top notch. Okay, and so hold that thought about how soaked they are, and add in the fact that it's 45 degrees and dropping. Okay, so that affects everything else, every other story that we're going to tell about GTE of 42 : the hills. You have to remember that they were destroyed by that. Homer is the Q of the whole event, and I would put him in the top of the top of the top fitness wise. And he was just wrecked by that weather, by that coldness, and so was everybody else. So they get to the welcome party, and at first I thought they can't even get into front leaning rest. Come to find out, I asked them subsequently, they had never heard that expression before. Yeah. So I will give them a little bit of break on that. But they could not move or count in cadence. Yodel stopped 3 times. And the 3rd time he looked over at me and gave me that, what the hell is the matter with these guys look? And so I saw Homer, 3 British guys came over to Wilmington, Homer, Sticks, and Rotor. And I said to Homer, you guys couldn't even count in cadence. What the hell? And he said, that's how bad the cold was. So
wow.
They were wrecked. Yeah. And it didn't help that the cadre actually told the guys to take the rucks off, go slick, and then he told the support team to carabiner clip all their rucks together and then send them to the other cadre. And they're like, what are we supposed to do? It's just a mass of weight and you can't put it on, because you're like, let's go. From the outside looking in, I laughed a little bit too hard and then felt guilty afterwards watching that mess that occurred in that small field next to the fire station.
Yeah. And so a couple of sort of like minor funny things happened. The fitness test was held very close to Oktoberfest. So there's all these men dressed in lederhosen and women dressed like slutty German barmaids walking, one of them literally drinking from a bottle of wine, walking down the street as we're doing the fitness test, which was just a strange environment. We walked through downtown Guildford, which is the host AO, and there was a bunch of co-eds having a birthday party, and they started singing our national anthem. I haven't quite figured out why they were singing the American national anthem. There was no American flag. There was no American anything that I could see. And in fact, there was a British flag out front. So that was another sort of funny highlight. They get to this river crossing, and Slaughter gets that Grinch look on his face. And he says, all right, man, you can take off 2 layers of clothes and hold them over your head for this river crossing. Basically, as he's saying this, some drunk dude strips down naked and jumps belly flops off of a bridge into the water.
I would like to point out that guy was not one of the packs.
Yeah, it was not an F1 guys. It was not Italian Job. When Italian Job belly flopped off that bridge, he left his clothes on.
I did.
So he tells him, all right, you can hold your layers over your head. And I know after the fact that Safari, who is the founding Nantan over there, told me he thought, are you effing kidding me? I am not getting in that river. And then Slaughter said, nah, I'm just kidding. We're going to take the bridge, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, Tommy boy, it was, the cadres love to find a water crossing. The dirtier, the better. The colder, the better. It's just, I think we've all been about ankle deep in goose poop crossing some water, some body of water somewhere. But yes, the cold was an added element of suck. And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, that's the same thing that happened in Cape Fear this past weekend, that it wasn't just cool, it was rainy and raining sideways and windy, kind of Forrest Gump style. So did the cold have the same type of effect on the guys in Cape Fear as it did in the guys in UK?
That's a good question. I'm going to give 2 answers. One is I don't know exactly because I wasn't as immersed side by side, cheek to jowl with the men there as I was in the UK. But then also, I don't think it was quite as bad because the absolute striking, immediate, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? It was more gradual than that. Like it was warmer all night, and it wasn't the absolute deluge. No way to survive this. It was a steady rain, but like I had my rain gear on, and I was actually, as far as being wet, I wasn't cold from being wet until probably 5 a.m. when my pants failed. So it was bad for sure, and it was more consistent for sure. But I don't think the overpowering, what the hell am I going to do to survive this? That I don't think they had that.
I've never heard the phrase "when my pants failed" before, so I have to just take my hat off and applaud that.
I was walking with the head cadre, Major Payne, and I think we both experienced it like at almost the same time. That it started raining harder at maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, and after an hour or so of that, waterproof or water resistant, that only works for so long, right?
Yep.
There comes a point where nothing is surviving that, and that's what we hit. And the thing in the UK, it was immediate. Like you were getting hit by literally by a fire hose. There's no gear in the world that's going to protect you from that.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And it's hard to carry a brick wall in your ruck. So yeah,
that's exactly right. So there were some other interesting things that happened in GTE, and I don't want to give all the secret sauce to the upcoming series that we have coming out on Tuesday, but I do want to ask, have you ever seen the speech? Tommy Boy, I'm going to ask you this. Have you ever seen Slaughter give the speech? And have you
Not
ever
in person,
seen,
unfortunately, but I've seen it. I've seen it on the YouTubes.
Does it give you goosebumps or make you want to run through a brick wall?
Absolutely.
Have you ever seen a speech not work? where everybody's gung ho because this is the guy. It's the pregame before the football game. The head coach is talking through it. It's everybody's on board. Have you ever seen it just fall flat? Not because of the delivery, but because just people are broken.
If you're asking me that, yes, because I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan, so the past several weeks have been brutal.
So Ralph, tell us about the speech and the looks that you saw staring back at you when you got that notion of it's time for the speech. It's go time.
Okay, so the as IJEP says, the speech is what Slaughter gives in the middle of just about every GTE, because in the middle of just about every GTE, the men get broken, right? The log carry is air quote too hard, or some other challenge happens, and he sits them down and he goes all Gipper on them. The log carry in the UK was in the woods, an extremely treacherous trail. We had ridden mountain bikes a few days before on the trail so we could get a look at it. You could not ride a mountain bike on this trail because it was too treacherous. We all had to walk our mountain bikes. And quite frankly, it was hard to even walk because it was so treacherous. And so the way I've been describing it is it was wide enough to have men carrying a log, but then basically wide enough for nothing else. And there's on the left side is a tall, like everywhere else in the UK, is a line of shrubs. And then on the right is the woods. And it's basically straight downhill, barely traversable on foot. And they're trying to carry a telephone pole. And IJOB and I were in the back, I say watching, but we were also
carrying those stupid jerry cans.
I was just going to say, were we each? Is this one of those hazy memories? I can't remember if we were each carrying a jerry can or if we were taking turns. But whatever, those things weigh like 50 or 60 pounds. So we were helping, and frankly, the men couldn't do it. I don't think that's overstating. And so Slaughter sat him down, gave him the speech. You expect them to get up and run through the forest. Didn't happen at all. It was a disaster. I think that part of it, in terms of their ability to effectively do it. And so Linus, he came up with what I think is just an absolutely brilliant idea, and it's gonna go down in the annals of GTE as one of the most incredible things that has ever happened. It was clear that platoon needed help. They were not going to be able to continue the log carry on their own. Slaughter had determined they were going to drop the log, which is unheard of as far as I know. Linus had this idea, and it was extremely complicated, and I can't tell the whole story here because we'd be here the whole 30 minutes. But it was basically get on the walkie-talkie and say, every able-bodied F3 man who can hear this, please come help this platoon. So that meant all of the trainer from the other team, which was K9, he came running back. All of the support team, they came running back and basically got under the log. Linus got under the log. I got under the log. IJOB got under the log. And I've been thinking a lot about sort of what that meant and what that was a symbol of. And the conclusion that I came to is it's a great representation of what F3 is all about. That every F3 man shows up at a beatdown because he needs help, right? And we are there to provide it for him. And we are there if he shows up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This was different. This was a call for help. And F3 men came running to provide it. And when they arrived there, a couple of things happened. Frankly, one was that one of the things about GTE is you don't tell men how to do it. You let them figure it out themselves, right? Frankly, they didn't figure it out. And so there was a little bit of just instruction. We're going to do it this way. We're going to rotate out, take 30 steps, and then you get out, I'll get in. I'll take 30 steps. You get out, I'll get in. So there's a little bit of practicalness. And then I think really the arrival of help lifted men's spirits. And there was one guy in particular, Dovetail, who he got on the front of that log and he put that thing on his shoulder and he took off like a whipped horse. And I mean, it was absolutely incredible. It's probably not fair to give him all of the physical credit, but from my vantage point, that was huge, that he shouldered so much of that weight and basically willed the men, pulled them along. And that was remarkable to me. It was everything that's great about F3, everything that's great about GTE wrapped up in one really, really horrible couple of hour stretch.
It's funny because through that narrative, you've actually kind of pinned the tail on the third question, which is we're just sitting here talking about misery, and it's like, why do we do it? And it's what we talked about in Texas a lot, which was just after you guys flew abroad, and just before 44 was it's never above, it's never below, it's always beside. And that is, in some way, shape, or form, that will always resonate and make itself known to the men, whether they hear it and process it then, or whether they are humbled throughout the night and are reminded of it, that it's not about being above or below a guy. It's about being right beside him as needed, when needed. So I love it, man. I love it. And you can hear those stories and these stories and anybody who's listening now, and you can believe it until you sign up and show up. You don't know it. It's like gravity. You can believe in gravity and write it down on a piece of paper and pass the test on how it works. But until you fall and bust your face, you don't know gravity, right? And so this has such a way of just solidifying it. I mean, it's the crucible of all the things we talk about.
Yeah, and I've got this flag behind me is all of the AOs in the UK. It was a gift from Homer. And then the other thing that the log made even more incredible, the water and then the log, and then the very end, the index. When we arrived at the park, that was the index, there was moms, there was children, there was grandmothers, there was dogs, there were children with signs welcoming us in to this rest, this consummation of the event. And then standing around there because of what I'm going to say we had just been through, and that's exaggerating, my participation in it a little, but I'm going to include myself in that group. Sort of a celebration and a cathartic release of what we had all just been through. It was really quite incredible. And so I'm having this conversation with Slaughter, just both of us just sort of exulting in what was going on around us. And he basically said, lives are changing as we watch it. And then this woman walks up, like those words were just coming out of his mouth. And a woman who is, I think it was Hoops's wife, said, "Thank you for breaking my husband." I thought I was going to cry. Yodel cries at everything. So that was, if he would have cried at that wouldn't be a big surprise. But that thank you for breaking my husband is, I think that like the 2.0 or the M's and the 2.0s and the extended family, I sort of felt like they got it in a different way than I've seen here. Maybe because it's still new, and like my wife, my friends' wives here, they went through that all 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, right? So their enthusiasm maybe has waned because they're sick of hearing us talk about it. But there, it's still super fresh. I mean, there was one woman there who came to the UK from Zimbabwe to be at the end, to welcome her son to the end. And, I was joking. There was, I think I counted 12 countries of birth in that event. We consider it a diverse beatdown here if somebody comes from the other side of the Missouri River. So that was sort of an interesting side note of the men who were participating too.
So I'm going to finish it with one last question because I know we've got a stop coming up. Why should a guy attend a Grow Ruck training event? Why should a guy consider a GTE? Why? Why do hard things?
That's a great question. And it's funny that part of our marketing for this event is this really sucks. It's terrible. You're going to hate it. You should come and do it. But I mean, I don't think our culture has forgotten the value of hard work. We have forgotten that growth comes from being broken. I remember the first time I talked to Danny, this is 4 years ago, I was doing a piece where I participated in the Naperville GTE. And he said, I can't remember what the exact quote it was, but he basically said, "You can't learn unless you get hurt." And I thought, well, he's full of shit. Come on, that's not true. But it's absolutely true. The bonds that you form with men, the things that you learn about yourself. I apply stuff that I learn in GTE every single day. And it's minor stuff, right? If I've got a deadline coming up and I'm worried about it. Well, you know what? I was blindfolded for an hour and a half or whatever it was, and I had 40 pounds on my back, and I had a sandbag draped across my shoulder, and I was holding onto the man in front of me and the man next to me, and it's absolutely freaking pouring in some subdivision in Naperville. I survived that. I think I can make this deadline. You know what I mean? Where it teaches you, it's part of Slaughter's speech is you can't unlearn what you're learning tonight. You're a new, you come out of this a new person, and now it's on you to apply that. And I also say it's fun. I know it sounds horrible, like walking through the river or getting soaked by a fire hose or whatever, but your stomach will hurt from laughing, your face will hurt from laughing, and you will have memories for a lifetime. And I've actually been doing a ton of research into how memory works, and doing a GTE will make you feel like you lived longer, because you will have so many memories condensed into a small amount of time that it makes, like, that trip to London seems like it took like a month. Mm-hmm. And then like the next week where I didn't do nearly as much interesting, it's like it didn't happen at all. So you do a GTE, you will live longer. That would be part of my pitch.
I mean, there's your pitch right there.
Yeah.
Well, Ralph, thanks for joining us, man. I know, right? Thanks for joining us. I think every man yearns for an adventure, something dangerous. Yeah. And quite frankly, you're not going to get that going to the grocery store unless, oh no, somebody took your shopping cart. Oh, wow. I mean, listen, we need to have some danger, some excitement, some challenge in our life to prove that we can do it, that we can pull through it. Tommy Boy, I'm going to leave you with something that I recently heard, that I recently read, that I really enjoyed. And it was, no one is coming. And what was meant by that is no one, N-O-1 is coming. You're on your own. And then it's a modification of that. No, one is coming. K-N-O-W, no, one is coming. In the darkest hour, when the men were under log and could not do it, the thought was, no one is coming. We've got to do this. We can't do it. I'm broken. I can't. And then all of a sudden, the call for the cavalry comes out, and no, one is coming. So if you're ever in that dark phase, and you will be, just know one is coming for you. And that right there, that's GT in a nutshell. You're not alone in your struggles in life. You're not alone in what's going on currently. And you won't be alone in future endeavors and those struggles. Know that one is coming. So TB, happy Thanksgiving a little bit in advance. Appreciate you being on board here, man. Thank you for being my partner in crime. Ralph, thanks for kind of sharing some of these stories. And again, the series is starting on Tuesday. The GT 42 The Hills is coming out. It'll be 3 different stories telling you a little bit about the behind the scenes stuff. So tune in. You'll see that in your newsletter inboxes, and we'll also put it on f3nation.com so you can read up on it there.
Ralph, we appreciate you, man. I love hearing good storytelling. Again, we're all a part of one another's stories, and so it's just good to be a character in your book, and I welcome you in mine. And IJ, right back at you. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the break. Take a moment to pause and just look around the table, and let's remind ourselves that everyone there is a gift in some way, shape, or form. And so, Podpaxers, if you're listening, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. We will see you soon. Until then, Lord have mercy. Be good or be good at it.
Love you, man. Thanks, guys.